What if your constant exhaustion isn't laziness but chemical imbalance? We live in a world that rewards hustle and punishes rest. But what if the real culprit behind your low motivation and emotional burnout isn't your job or your phone, but dopamine? They told you to work harder and stay positive, but never taught you how your brain works. In the name of productivity, we've ignored the very neurochemical that makes life worth engaging in. It's not weakness, it's biology. And most people are fighting invisible wars inside their own minds without even knowing it. Modern life is dopamine chaos, overstimulated yet underfulfilled. You scroll endlessly, binge for relief, crash emotionally, and repeat thinking it's a discipline problem. It's not. It's a cycle designed to keep you numb. But the solution doesn't lie in escaping your life. It lies in learning how to reclaim your dopamine. Welcome to StoicCraft, where ancient wisdom meets modern science to help you rebuild clarity, motivation, and emotional resilience. If you're ready to stop chasing fleeting highs and start living with purpose, you're in the right place. You've been fighting a battle you didn't even realize was there. There's a quiet war happening within many of us, a subtle, daily battle we rarely acknowledge, not because it's hidden, but because we've accepted it as normal. We wake up exhausted even after a full night's sleep. We go through the day with a mind clouded by distraction and fatigue. Moments that once brought us joy or drive now feel muted. And we point fingers at our schedules, our jobs, our screens, the noise of modern life. But these are just surface-level explanations. Beneath it all, there's a deeper biological imbalance. And at the center of it is a crucial, yet often overlooked player: dopamine. Dopamine isn't just the pleasure chemical like most people think. It's the molecule of motivation, drive, and reward. It's what gives your goals meaning, what turns a plan into action, and what makes satisfaction feel real. When your dopamine levels are balanced, life flows. You think clearer, feel more engaged, and carry a sense of direction even in chaos. But when that balance is disrupted, which is more common now than ever, life gets heavy. Even the smallest task becomes a mountain today. Our overstimulated, always-on world pushes our brains to burnout. We're either bombarded by noise or numbed by fatigue. And many of us are unknowingly operating with an empty tank. But here's the encouraging truth. You're not broken. Your chemistry isn't set in stone, and you don't need a prescription to feel alive again. You don't need to escape your life to feel like yourself. You need to reconnect, to return to something real. There are natural, powerful ways to rewire your brain, restore dopamine, and spark that deep internal fire again. This episode will guide you through 10 practices, not rules or rigid systems, but small shifts, each one designed to bring you back to balance. These aren't about being perfect. They're about being present. Because when you nourish your dopamine in healthy, intentional ways, slowly, consistently, you don't just feel better. You become better. You become someone who feels rooted, energized, and mentally alive again. Someone who can face life with clarity, not confusion. So let's not treat this as a chase for happiness. Let's call it what it is: a return. A return to presence, to inner momentum, to energy that isn't dependent on achievement or applause. Your emotional and mental well-being isn't optional. It's the ground beneath every decision, every relationship, every version of success. Let's begin rebuilding one quiet, powerful step at a time. Move first. Think later. How? Physical. Motion awakens mental clarity. Ever noticed how a short walk can change your entire outlook? Not just your body, but your brain. That sense of lightness, the way the mental fog clears, how your shoulders soften and your breath deepens. That's not coincidence. That's chemistry. Movement, even something as small as a stroll around the block, ignites dopamine production. And dopamine is more than a good feeling buzz. It's the fire behind motivation, joy, and emotional steadiness. But here's the problem. Modern society treats movement like a chore. It's tied to numbers, steps, reps, calories, apps. We forget that your body doesn't need performance. It just needs to move. And when you're at your lowest, anxious, depressed, drained, that's usually the first thing you stop doing. You cancel the walk, slump into the couch, scroll endlessly, wait for the spark to return. But ironically, motion is exactly what your brain needs most in those moments. Not to burn calories, not to hit a goal, but to reset your neurochemistry. Physical stagnation mirrors emotional stagnation. That stuck feeling, it's a sign not of failure, but of a system that's begging for movement, not more overthinking. This isn't New Age fluff. The Stoics knew this intimately. Cleinias, one of the early Stoics, worked nights hauling water and spent his days in study. To him, physical labor was not separate from clarity of thought. It was the door that opened to it. He didn't move to impress. He moved to stay sane, focused, and centered. And we can apply this today without robes or rituals. You're overwhelmed at work. Your instinct might be to sit longer, grind harder, push through. But what if the answer isn't more intensity, but more rhythm? What if a 10-minute walk outside a reset, not a retreat, is all it takes to shift your inner weather? Biochemically, even mild movement improves not only dopamine, but serotonin, norepinephrine, and endorphins. It doesn't remove the challenge, but it changes your ability to face it. You walk back not just refreshed, but more you. And here's the best part. You don't need a plan, just a first step. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't need a gym membership, running shoes, or a fitness tracker. You don't need to sweat through a 45-minute routine or perform for an app. You just need to begin. Right here, right now. Stand up. Stretch your arms above your head. Let your spine realign. Roll your neck gently side to side. Walk barefoot through your home, feeling each step with quiet intention. And if you're able, step outside, even if just to the balcony or the edge of your yard. Let the wind touch your skin. Let your eyes meet the sky instead of the screen. Do this. Not because something is wrong with you. Do it because your body was never meant to live in stillness for hours on end. Our ancestors didn't sit for 8 hours straight in front of glowing rectangles. Motion was life. Motion was communication, survival, clarity. And it still is. Movement is truth. A mind in motion thinks better than a mind trapped in isolation. Problems feel smaller when the body is moving. Ideas form faster. Emotions regulate themselves. And healing, the kind that truly matters, isn't found in grand gestures. It's found in these small, quiet returns to presence, again and again. So let movement become your daily rhythm. Not punishment for eating, not performance for others, but permission to reconnect, to feel, to breathe deeper. Movement becomes your way back to yourself. Every stretch, every step, every shake off of tension is a signal to your nervous system. I'm still here. I still care. Ask yourself this: what kind of movement does my body need today? Not what your fitness app says, not what Instagram promotes, but what you, right now, genuinely need. Then trust that signal. Honor it. Even 5 minutes matter. Because with every step, dopamine flows, and with it, the feeling of being truly alive returns. 2. Eat with wisdom, not emotion. Let's be honest. When sadness, boredom, or overwhelm hits, what do we often reach for first? Not silence, not a deep breath, not reflection. That we reach for food, not out of hunger, but out of habit, out of hurt. That cookie, that bag of chips, that second serving, those are emotional decisions. And for a fleeting moment, they work. They soothe. They mask the ache. But what's rarely acknowledged is that every time we eat from emotion, we don't just affect our waistline, we rewire our brain. We disrupt a delicate system of chemistry that governs how we feel, think, and engage with the world. Dopamine, our driver of motivation and clarity, is one of the first casualties. Your brain isn't just running on thoughts. It's running on what you feed it. Protein-rich meals, healthy fats, and foods high the amino acid tyrosine directly influence dopamine production. These nutrients become the raw materials your brain uses to function well, to feel sharp, calm, motivated. But when we swap these real inputs for sugar highs, salty cravings, or processed comfort, we create a dopamine roller coaster. You feel good for 10 minutes and worse for the next 12 hours. That treat becomes a trap, not because it's inherently evil, but because it was used as an emotional crutch. The Stoics didn't have language for neurotransmitters, but they knew this truth deeply. They warned us about indulgence. Seneca, in one of his reflections, said, "Drunkenness is nothing but voluntary madness." He wasn't just talking about wine. He was talking about the human tendency to overconsume anything food praise. Drama that dulls the mind and weakens discipline. So the real question is not, what should I eat to be trendy? Or, how can I lose weight fast? The real question is this: what kind of food helps me feel mentally clear and emotionally steady? That's a completely different conversation. One rooted in awareness, not guilt. One that starts not in a diet plan, but in paying attention. Start with something simple. Begin your day with protein, hydration, maybe a few greens. Before the world asks anything of you, before you open your inbox or check your feed, you've already told your brain. Choose balance over stimulation. You've built dopamine naturally, not from caffeine or sugar, but from nourishment. And your body listens. Your emotions settle. The cravings grow quieter. You stop needing food to feel okay, because you're giving yourself what you actually need. Now think about the opposite scenario. You skip meals or you indulge in emotional eating late at night. The next morning you wake up feeling groggy and drained. Your motivation is low. Your blood sugar crashes mid-morning, and suddenly you're grasping for energy through artificial sources, scrolling endlessly, smacking without thought, snapping at people who don't deserve it. It's not because you're weak, lazy, or undisciplined. It's because your brain chemistry is out of balance, scrambling to compensate for the nourishment your body didn't receive. This is why eating with wisdom is one of the most fundamental expressions of self-respect. We're not talking about diet fads or rigid, clean eating mantras. We're talking about wisdom, about pausing to ask yourself, how do I want to feel today? And then choosing your meals with that intention. That's not dieting. That's identity. That's self-mastery. And yes, it demands effort. It takes awareness to ask, am I truly hungry, or am I avoiding a feeling? It takes courage to walk away from the quick dopamine hit and move toward real nourishment. But each time you choose nutrition over numbing, you reinforce your emotional strength. You tell your body and mind, I'm not here to escape, I'm here to feel, to face, and to grow. Because food isn't just fuel, it's information. Every bite tells your brain something. Every meal sets the tone for your mood, your discipline, your resilience. When you build your meals with intention, you are shaping your mental clarity and emotional balance, not for the next 10 minutes, but for the life you want to lead. So the next time you find yourself reaching into the fridge, not out of hunger, but out of habit, pause, breathe, ask yourself, what do I really need right now? Maybe it's a nourishing meal. Maybe it's a moment of stillness. Maybe it's a deep breath. Don't just feed your feelings. Feed your future, because the way you eat calm, conscious, and in alignment with your well-being is how you reclaim your emotional power. Modern society encourages us to eat our emotions instead of facing them. This section reframes food as both medicine and message, reminding us that intentional nourishment is not about body image, but about reclaiming mental clarity and self-respect. This isn't discipline for the sake of control. It's awareness for the sake of freedom. 3. Sleep like you're rebooting your soul. When was the last time you truly surrendered to rest? Not just closing your eyes and calling it a night, but genuinely allowing your mind and body to reset at the deepest level. In today's over-caffeinated, always-on world, sleep has been pushed to the background, as if it were optional, as if we can trade hours of rest for another task crossed off the to-do list. But your nervous system doesn't believe that lie. It's keeping the score, and sleep is non-negotiable. Neglect it, rush it, disrespect it, and your brain begins to fail you, especially when it comes to dopamine. Because your brain doesn't just sleep, it repairs, balances, and restores. Deep sleep is when your mind performs its nightly maintenance, detoxifying the system, resetting your emotional wiring and restoring neurotransmitters like dopamine to keep you stable and focused. Without it, your dopamine receptors start to dull. You need more and more stimulation just to feel okay. And eventually, you stop feeling much of anything at all. Have you ever noticed how even the smallest tasks feel like mountains after a sleepless night? How your temper shortens, your motivation vanishes, and life feels off? That's not just fatigue, it's chemical imbalance. Your internal battery is drained and your operating system is glitching. No matter how strong your philosophy or willpower, when you run on empty, everything else collapses. Even the Stoics understood this. Marcus Aurelius urged himself daily to rise and do the work of a human being, but he also respected preparation. And sleep is preparation. It's how you're recharged so you can engage life with clarity, calm, and competence. Without it, all your wisdom becomes theoretical. With it, your Stoicism becomes action-anchored in energy, not exhaustion. Yet how often do we trade this vital fuel for fake productivity? Staying up late not to grow, but to escape scrolling, binge-watching, numbing out under the illusion of winding down. But in truth, we're not buying peace, we're borrowing it. And paying with tomorrow's resilience. Your brain, your mood, your willpower, they all begin with rest. Deep, consistent, restorative sleep isn't weakness. It's a weapon. Use it. One of the most impactful decisions you can make for your mental and emotional health isn't to grind harder, it's to prioritize sleep. Not perfection, not 8 uninterrupted hours every night, but rhythm, consistency, a sacred boundary around your evenings that says, this time is mine. This is when I recharge, when I honor my need to rest. Lower the lights, close the tabs, quiet the chaos of the day, and allow your mind to gently return to stillness. Of course, it won't always be easy. You'll feel the urge to respond to one more message, finish one last thing, check one more notification. But you must remember this. A tired mind doesn't solve, it spirals. It doesn't create solutions, it feeds problems. If you want more powerful days, begin with more protected nights. Your sleep space should be sacred. Cool, dark, silent, free from stimulation, free from judgment. A place where your mind is allowed to exhale. And if sleep feels distant, start small. Set a consistent bedtime. Power down the screens an hour before. Replace stimulation with calming rituals, soft sounds, deep breaths, simple reflection. Not to chase perfect sleep, but to honor your brain's most primal need, the need to restore. Ask yourself this: what would shift in your life if you treated sleep with the same reverence as your ambitions? Every night you protect your rest, you're building reserves of clarity, energy, emotional control that no supplement or productivity hack can replicate. You can't grind your way out of exhaustion, but you can reclaim your vitality through the radical daily act of resting well. Sleep isn't laziness. It's leadership over your own nervous system. It's a nightly return to center. 4. Sit with yourself in stillness. When was the last time you sat quietly? No screens, no music, no scrolling, just breathing, present with your own thoughts, not trying to solve or perform or distract, just being. For many, that kind of silence is foreign, even unsettling. But it's in this very stillness that healing begins. This is where dopamine renews itself, not through stimulation, but through serenity. It's where your nervous system finds its reset. It's where your mind finally hears itself. We live in an era addicted to noise, digital clutter, endless inputs, constant alerts. It gives the illusion of connection but starves us of depth. We're overstimulated yet emotionally undernourished. And in that flood of content and urgency, we lose touch with our intuition, our focus, our truth. The Stoics saw this coming centuries ago. They didn't fear silence. They trained for it. They believed the mind must not only be sharp in thought, but still in reflection. Marcus Aurelius didn't just suggest stillness, he demanded it from himself. Nowhere, he wrote, can a person find a quieter retreat than within their own soul. This wasn't poetry. It was a strategy for sanity. And now, Neuroscience confirms what the ancients knew. Intentional stillness through practices like meditation, breath work, or even sitting in silence increases dopamine and serotonin, strengthens emotional regulation, and rewires the mind for clarity. But even more than the science, stillness gives you back control. It's the rare moment you're not reacting, not running, not performing. You're just present, and in presence you become powerful again. Even 5 minutes of silence can shift your entire day. In a world that trains us to chase attention, stillness reminds us to return home. You allow your emotions to rise, to be seen, to move through you, not to dominate, but to be acknowledged. You stop reacting and start observing. You create a sacred space between feeling and response. And it's within that space that transformation begins. Let's bring this into real life. You're overwhelmed. The usual response? Grab your phone, text someone, distract yourself with food, noise, anything to avoid the discomfort. But instead, imagine you pause, you breathe. You ask yourself, what am I actually feeling right now? No judgment, no analysis, just awareness. In that simple pause, something powerful happens. The storm inside begins to settle. The noise loses its grip. And in that moment of presence, your brain's dopamine system quietly activates. Not from external pleasure, but from your internal clarity. That's the secret of stillness. It doesn't numb you. It returns you. This is why regular meditation or moments of mindful silence have such transformative power. It's not about retreating from life, it's about facing it with a calm mind. Stillness doesn't require incense, robes, or an hour of lotus position silence. It could be a cup of tea in the morning with no phone, a walk with just your breath and the rhythm of your steps, 10 minutes before bed where you simply listen to your breath, your body, your being. You're not performing peace. You're remembering who you were before the noise. So ask yourself, what might shift if you gave yourself 5 minutes of undistracted presence every day? Would it be clarity, anger, peace, grief? It doesn't matter. Whatever arises, it's welcome. Stillness doesn't promise comfort. It promises truth. And truth is the first step back to your authentic self. You don't need to become a monk. You only need to be willing to stop, to sit, to breathe, to hear. Because once you hear that voice beneath the chaos, it becomes your compass. And that alone can change everything. 5 set goals and celebrate small wins. Have you ever felt the quiet satisfaction of crossing something off your to-do list, even if it was just make the bed or drink water? That micro moment of pride, of progress, that's dopamine in action. It's your brain's way of saying, yes, this matters. Keep going. The truth is, dopamine doesn't only respond to major victories. It thrives on movement, on momentum, on the feeling of forward motion. But here's the trap. Most people wait too long to feel proud. They delay reward until the finish line, until the job is secured, the book is published, the weight is lost, the healing is done. And by doing so, they starve their motivation. The Stoics weren't obsessed with success, but they were deeply focused on direction. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." That's not about dreams. That's about discipline. Not fantasy, but focus. A commitment followed by consistent, grounded effort. Let's bring this down to earth. Maybe you want to reclaim your health, write a novel, or finally change your career. If you wait for the end result to feel good, you'll burn out. But if you set many milestones, drink a glass of water, write one paragraph, say no to one distraction, and celebrate them, even quietly, you train your brain to link effort with reward. This is real neuroscience. Research shows that recognizing small victories builds stronger neural pathways. You literally rewire your mind to enjoy the process, not just the result. Think of a toddler learning to walk. Every wobble is applauded. Every step is a celebration. So why, as adults, do we only cheer when we reach perfection? You don't become great overnight. You become great by choosing well, again and again. Each decision, however small, is a vote for who you're becoming. And when you celebrate that vote, you amplify its power. So turn it into a daily ritual. Set goals that are real, achievable, meaningful. Then track your progress, not for social media, not for approval, but for your own psychology. Keep a journal, jot a line in your phone, or simply pause at day's end with a quiet smile that says, I showed up today. I moved forward. That's not weakness. That's self-leadership. That's how you build dopamine with intention, not as a fleeting trick, but as a foundational tool. And the emotional impact? Massive. Every small win you recognize becomes a message to your nervous system. Change is possible. Despair gets replaced by direction. Helplessness gives way to forward motion. And slowly, something deeper shifts your self-image. You no longer see yourself as stuck. You start seeing someone different in the mirror, someone who follows through, someone who shows up even when it's hard, someone who keeps promises, no matter how small. That's identity, not fantasy. That's how you become who you already are, just beneath the surface. So ask yourself now, what's one small action I can take today that brings me closer to the version of myself I respect? Then do it and honor it, not with loud celebration, but with stillness, with presence, with the quiet pride of someone becoming whole. Because the person who finds joy in a single, honest step, the one who pauses and says, I did what I said I would do, will one day reach the summit, not because they rushed, but because they never stopped walking. 6. Listen to music that moves you. Have you ever played a song and suddenly everything shifted? Your mood lifted, your energy surged, your emotions welled up for no clear reason. That's not coincidence, it's dopamine. Music doesn't just fill silence, it fills us. It activates the brain's reward center, increases dopamine, and changes how we feel at a deep, neurological level. That's why a song from your childhood can unlock an entire memory. That's why one melody can make you cry not from sadness, but from emotional recognition. Music bypasses intellect. It speaks directly to the nervous system. It reaches the soul. And here's what makes it so powerful. It's simple, immediate, free. You don't need a therapist, a book, or a breakthrough. Just the right sound, carefully chosen, deeply felt. The Stoics didn't talk about playlists, but they did talk about rhythm, about tuning your life to a steady internal cadence. Seneca wrote often about the importance of harmony between thought and feeling. And what is music if not harmony made audible? When your world feels heavy, music can be the bridge back. It doesn't demand effort. It doesn't need your story. It simply says, feel, heal, shift. Let's make it practical. You're stressed, foggy, you can't focus. Instead of numbing out or spiraling, put in your headphones, close your eyes. Pick a song that means something, not background noise, but music with heart. Let it wash over you. Notice how your breath slows, how your thoughts untangle, how you begin to return to yourself. This isn't escapism, it's emotional rebalancing, the kind that's neurologically proven to regulate stress, heighten focus, and boost dopamine. Different music for different moments. Uplifting tracks to energize you. Calm rhythms to soothe your nerves. Instrumentals to focus your mind. Even sad songs, sometimes they don't deepen pain, they release it. The key is this: don't use music as filler. Use it as medicine. Cure it. Your emotional soundtrack. Build playlists that serve your states, your mornings, your walks, your journaling, your stillness. Let music become not what you consume, but what supports you. Because sometimes the spark that pulls you out of darkness isn't logic. It's not a motivational quote. It's one song, one chorus, one note that reminds you you're still here, you still feel. You're still alive. That's the magic of music, not as distraction, but as alignment. And that kind of emotional shift, that changes everything. 7. Surround yourself with nourishing relationships. You don't always have to fix how you feel sometimes. The deepest healing comes from simply letting yourself feel. Music does that for us, offering release without demand. But so do people, the right ones. Have you ever left a conversation feeling seen, energized, even lighter in your soul, and then left another feeling anxious, ashamed, or completely drained? That's not just a shift in mood, it's chemistry. That's dopamine responding to human connection. Our relationships literally reshape our minds. The people you allow into your life influence your motivation, emotional resilience, and even your sense of self-worth. It's not a luxury, it's neurobiology. Dopamine levels increase in the presence of authentic connection. Not surface chatter, not dopamine chasing social media likes, but real presence. The kind where someone actually listens, not just waits for their turn to talk. Someone who sees you, not just your role or your struggles, but your essence. Someone who doesn't demand you become something else, but naturally reminds you of who you already are. Seneca once said, "One of the most beautiful qualities of true friendship is to understand and to be understood." The Stoics weren't interested in convenient friendships. They valued the ones rooted in truth, mutual understanding, and emotional calm. These aren't the loudest relationships. They're not based on drama or performance. They're steady, solid, and quietly transformative. Now contrast that with toxic relationships, the ones where you feel like you have to shrink, apologize, or perform just to be tolerated. Those connections don't just bruise your emotions. They starve your brain. Your dopamine drops. Your mind enters survival mode. And slowly, without realizing it, you begin to doubt yourself. You start reacting more and resting less. You lose your centered thoughts. You don't need a crowd to be emotionally healthy. In fact, sometimes the crowd is the problem. What you need are quality connections. 1 or 2 relationships that energize you, challenge you with kindness, make you laugh from the heart. That's more powerful than 50 hollow exchanges, because every interaction is an input, and your brain becomes what it's most consistently exposed to. So here's a practical shift. Start checking in with yourself after social interactions. How do you feel? Grounded or scattered? Seen or overlooked? Motivated or numb? These aren't just moods, they're signals. Pay attention to them. Let them guide you. And just as importantly, be that kind of presence for others. Listen without fixing. Celebrate without competing. Be fully there without pretending. Bring the kind of energy you long to receive. Because real connection is a mirror. It reflects back what you offer. And when you offer safety, presence, and joy to others, you create a space where healing flows both ways, where dopamine rises naturally, where motivation returns without force, where you feel not just connected but alive. So if you're feeling emotionally numb, scattered, or unmotivated, don't just look inward. Look around. Who's in your space? 8. Do what you love, not just what's expected. When did joy become something you had to justify? Something to pencil in between meetings, chores, and everyone else's needs? When did the things that once made you feel alive turn into distant memories, or worse, guilty pleasures? Somewhere along the road to adulthood, many of us made an unconscious trade. We exchanged what we love for what we should do. And in that transaction, something vital was lost, our natural connection to dopamine. Not the kind that comes from checking boxes or achieving metrics. The kind that flows effortlessly when you're completely engaged in something that awakens your soul. Doing what you love, whether it's painting, gardening, crafting, playing music, reading, running, cooking, or simply walking in nature, isn't just self-care. It's neurochemical therapy. These passion-driven moments activate your brain's reward system in a way that creates sustainable dopamine, the kind that doesn't spike and crash, but lingers and strengthens you from within. The Stoics deeply valued duty and responsibility, but they also embraced the idea of eudaimonia, the flourishing of the soul. For them, joy was not opposed to virtue. It was a natural outcome of living in harmony with your inner nature. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. So if your mind is constantly flooded with what's expected of you, how can you expect it to flourish? Let's ground this in your real life. Think of a time when you were completely absorbed in something you love, where time disappeared, your thoughts quieted, and your energy returned effortlessly. You weren't worried about productivity. You were present. That's not just fun. That's functional neuroscience in action. You were in flow, building dopamine through joy and deep engagement. Yet, we often cast these moments aside, labeling them non-essential. We tell ourselves, I'll get back to that hobby when life calms down, but life never does. And if you keep abandoning what fuels you eventually, you run on empty. This isn't about quitting your job or neglecting your responsibilities. It's about reclaiming a sacred part of yourself that the world convinced you was unimportant. Your curiosity, your sense of wonder, your inner spark. So start small. 15 minutes a day with something that brings you joy. Guard that time like it's medicine, because it is. Let go of the need to monetize it, perfect it, or explain it. Simply do it because it brings you back to life. Ask yourself today, what Did I once love that I've buried under obligation? What small joy can I return to not later, but now? Because happiness isn't a final destination. It's a practice. And it begins by choosing joy not someday, but today. 10. Release stress. Don't just resist it. True strength isn't about holding everything in. It's about knowing how and when to let it go. Because the longer you carry stress without releasing it, the more it poisons your clarity, your motivation, and your emotional balance. Chronic stress isn't just uncomfortable, it's a thief. It robs your nervous system of resilience, clouds your decision-making, and blocks the natural production of dopamine. Over time, it rewires your brain to believe that pressure is normal, that rest is weakness, and that stillness means you're failing. But here's the truth. You're not broken, you're overloaded. The Stoics, in their wisdom, never said, "Don't feel." They said, "Don't be ruled by what you feel." Epictetus wrote, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." And reacting wisely doesn't mean suppressing your emotions. It means processing them intentionally, gently, compassionately. The real danger? Most of us never actually release our stress. We bottle it up in our shoulders, in our jaw, in our chest. Or we try to escape it through scrolling, snacking, staying busy, or zoning out. But emotion is energy, and energy that isn't expressed doesn't disappear. It turns into anxiety, fatigue, restlessness, and eventually burnout. Releasing stress isn't weakness, it's strategy. It's how your body and brain return to equilibrium. It's how dopamine begins flowing again naturally, not from external stimulation, but from the internal act of release. So what does release actually look like? Sometimes it's physical, a brisk walk, deep breathing, stretching, cold water, or sweat. Sometimes it's emotional, crying without shame, journaling without filters, or talking to someone who doesn't try to fix you, just sees you. Sometimes it's spiritual, prayer, stillness, meditation, or simply expressing gratitude. The method doesn't matter. The intention does. You're saying to yourself, "I'm allowed to feel this. I'm safe to release this. I am not this moment, I'm moving through it." And as you do, something powerful shifts. When you stop resisting stress and let it rise, crest, and pass like a wave, you regain access to yourself. You begin to kanta. Think clearly again. Your motivation quietly returns. Your emotional bandwidth expands. And dopamine begins flowing again, not because your life is perfect, but because you're no longer fighting it. Make this a ritual. 5 minutes a day. Place your hand on your heart. Breathe deeply. Name what you're holding. Then exhale. Not all at once, just enough. Release is a practice, not a performance. Ask yourself, where in my body am I holding pain that no longer belongs to me? What would it feel like to release instead of resist? Don't wait for a breakdown. Don't wait until you're forced to stop. Choose the wisdom of stopping now on purpose, because your peace is not a reward you earn after the work. It's part of the work. And the more you release, the more you rise. Your brain is not broken. Your spirit is not lazy. You're not unmotivated. You're simply exhausted from chasing balance in a world that never taught you how to find it. But everything you need is already inside you. Dopamine this quiet messenger of motivation doesn't respond to perfection. It responds to presence, to consistency, to small, daily acts of self-respect. You don't need to fix your whole life overnight. You need movement, that you need real food. You need sunlight. You need stillness. You need music. You need nourishing connection. You need the space to feel and the strength to let go. And when you build that space, when you reconnect to what matters, you'll feel it. That quiet pulse returning, that motivation rising, that voice inside saying, I'm still here. I'm healing. I'm alive. The Stoics didn't chase happiness. They cultivated clarity. They didn't numb emotion. They trained the mind to respond instead of react. And now it's your turn. Don't wait to feel better. Create the conditions that let you come alive, because dopamine isn't the goal. It's the signal that you're back in alignment with yourself. If this episode helped reconnect you to yourself, or even just gave you one tool to breathe easier, don't keep it to yourself. Comment below, which dopamine habit do you need to reclaim this week? I'd love to hear your story. And if you're ready to explore more content like this, check out the playlist. Retro Lessons, from classic games to life lessons, where philosophy, psychology, and nostalgia collide to inspire your growth. Remember, motivation isn't found. It's built through clarity, consistency, and a mind trained to respond, not react. Subscribe now and let StoicCraft walk this path with you.